Hello everyone, my name is Ehud Gal, and today I would like to present you my case conceptualization of Million Dollar Baby. The client. Client is Maggie Mukushile Fitzgerald. She's 31 years old. She's a boxer, and her coach is a Frankie Dunn. Her background is undercard boxer, financially struggling, waitress, and dysfunctional and unsupportive family. She doesn't have any significant other. She doesn't have any medical issues at the moment. She's healthy and she lives in Los Angeles, California. So what we have about Maggie? Maggie thought formal training for her boxing career at age of 31, which considering very late in the world of boxing, and where the competitors are very young and had much more experience ahead of them. Before working with Frankie Dunn, she had no formal and fundamental training. Maggie also works as a waitress and barely managed to make ends. She still finds time to train at Frankie's gyms because she wants him to coach her. She speaks a lot very good things about her father, which is no longer in her life. She maintains a relationship with her family, which is not supportive in misery, and they don't like her boxing passion. Boxing is a male-dominated sport where women face different obstructions than men. Her mother is unsupportive of Maggie's passion in boxing. The initial assessment. Maggie is highly persistent and very determined to learn and improve herself as a boxer. She's very coachable. Whatever a coach says, she's ready to react. Not just her coach, any feedback from teammates, from people in the gym, from one of her colleagues, everywhere. She's very task-oriented, and she's open to feedback and instruction from whoever comes along. She's very hard worker. She's staying late, much more than an hour is acceptable, and trying to maintain a job as a waitress. She always seeking hard to learn more and to get improvement. What are the theories that support this case? The first theory is self-determination theory. The theory suggests that motivation relies on the need of competence, relatedness, and autonomy. Maggie is the kind of person who is motivated, is very high, and relies on her connection and bond to her coach. She all the time looks his approval, his feedback, his guidance, and this is supporting this self-determined theory. The other theory is cognitive appraisal theory. This theory suggests that there is two-way of process. It involves of the stressors provided by the environment and the response of the athletes to these stressors. The first stage is the prior appraisal, which is the interpretation of the stressors. The second stage is analyze the resource needed. With Maggie, when she faces the stress, she's often isn't breathing well, and either get tired very quickly, or her performance reduced a lot. It's one of the main feedback from her coach. Another theory that connected more about the assessment tool or even like the sport analysis tool is the personal construct theory of Kelly in 1955. This theory is the link to performance profile by Butler 1989. It's an assessment and development of self-confidence via goal settings. The last theory is a self-efficacy theory by Bandura 1977. This theory suggests that the benefit of providing an expectation of success, self-efficacy affect performance by influence how much effort is expended on a task and how long one persists when confronted with setbacks and obstructions. In our case, Coach Dan knows that to read and trigger those his athletes, and during the work with Maggie, he succeeds to touch her in those trigger points which boost Maggie's motivation and performance. Some of the performance enhancement skills that I would like and see myself working with Maggie. First skill, it will be goal setting. Working with Maggie and due to her type of motivation, task oriented, I would focus on her setting goals, on the process goals, which also help her to improve some of her techniques that she's struggling, like defense all the time, defense herself, leg movements, right side boxing strength, etc. etc. The second performance enhancement is the self-talk. It seems like boxers all the time talk to themselves and motivate themselves and pushing themselves, or even judging themselves and everything. I would like to work with Maggie on her self-talk, on a positive self-talk. It's a technique that can use in many ways and many different reasons. If it's while training, if it's when she's going back home and she's talking to herself, she's kind of a lonely person that spends a lot of time with herself, her and like the boxing pillow. And it's very important, or even just before or in the competition when she's getting tired or when she's like getting afraid from the situation or stressed. The last performance enhancement skill that I would like to work is imagery. Imagery enhance performance because they are the same action practiced and used at the same use of neuropsychologists connections in your brain. Imagery help with learning sports skill, correct physical and mental mistakes, practicing sports strategies, build focus for competition, learn performance routines, and help with injury recovery. All of those are extremely important with Maggie's situation. She's very new to her sport. Later on she's suffering with from a very big injury, and also along our work together. Boxing is a sport that commonly have injuries. She needs a lot of focus how to prevent common mistakes which cost her a lot, cost her points, cost her injuries, cost her loss of fights. It's very common in the sport of boxing. And the other things about imagery that can help in sport of boxing is that we don't have too many matches, so imagery can provide kind of reversal or replacement for those boxing or new arenas, routines that you need to do before big events, or how do you adapt to when you are developing as a boxer to bigger and higher events or competitions. What are the assessment tools or ways that I will work with Maggie? I will focus first hand on semi-structural interviewing. The Sport Clinical Intake Protocol is developed by Tyler in 1992. It's to provide clinical and professional to help him to analyze the information about the athlete. Sport Clinical Intake Protocol, the SCIP, is a useful tool that I will work with Maggie to illustrate the range of potential issues that she may bring. the other semi-structural interviewing, I will use motivational interview. Motivational interviewing is widely adopted as a counseling style for promoting a behavior change and learning about the motivation aspect of the client. The principle of motivational interview and the self-determination theory are outlined and parallels. Working with an athlete like Maggie, with such a unique and high motivation, required to understand better her motivation and determination. Lastly, I will use it as an assessment tool and also along the way, kind of also a performance enhancement profile. A performance enhancement skill is a performance profile. Athlete's performance profile, which made by Butler and Hardy in 1992, is a client-centered performance assessment strategy. The performance profile strategy was developed to allow the athlete to assume greater influence on input on the performance assessment. O'Brien, Malilio, and Hunton in 2009 in their study of goal settings with boxers found that the performance profile technique used in the study helped to achieve precise goal identification and goal acceptance with the individual and to monitor subsequent goal achievement and commitment. Those two, the performance profile and the goal settings, set up and work amazingly, especially with boxers, as found in the research and the initial research, and suggested later on in the theory, and how they combine and work together. Those two align together very good, performance profile and goal setting, as we mentioned earlier. Some evidence-based practice that working with those research in the field. About self-talk, recent meta-analysis of 32 self-talk studies found positive effect of self-talk with athletes. This meta-analysis was written by Hatzigoridadis, Zorbons, Gallians, and Theodorikis in 2011. Williams and Crane, in their book Applied Sports Psychology, describe deeply the benefit of imagery as discussed earlier to Maggie's situation. As I just mentioned, performance profile and goal setting. In a review of Bartley and Hardy's, Weston et al. Found it beneficial of performance profile and goal settings, especially in boxing. Some of the multicultural consideration that I might have or having with Maggie. Maggie is a woman in a male-dominated sport. She faced obstacles in finding a gym and a trainer that will take her age and gender and athletic goals seriously. She persists to work with Don, which don't want to work with women and say it out loud. Maggie's age is too old to start training. She's 31. At that level, those athletes are much younger than her and much more experienced than her. She had only 3 years in this sport. Maggie's mother does not support her boxing passion, and she doesn't appreciate the generous gesture that Maggie does for her. She buys her house, she's paying her bills, sending her money. Maggie doesn't have a father figure in her adult life, and her family is dysfunctional and doesn't support her. Maggie's only support is her trainer, Frankie Don, and the housekeeper of the gym, at the gym that she's training, which she acknowledges and appreciates very much, and treat them with a lot of respect. And I will even say they are strongly bond together, which we'll discuss a bit later. The counseling psychology skills that I will use and using. First of all is the SOAP, which stands for Subjective Objective Assessment and Plan. SOAP notes is a method for documentation. The SOAP notes oriented from a problem-oriented medical record, and the idea is to help a counselor to find some schematic patterns and to organize the information that been collected from the client. Maggie has a lot going on from different perspectives. What she brings to the meeting, objective and subjective, her feedback from her coach, her complicated life and background, all of these I need to be able to collect together, to arrange it in some schematic system, and to build a plan. Again, it's part of the SOAP, how we're going forward with that. The other thing I will use in our counseling, in my counseling skills, is open-ended questions. It feels like Maggie holding a lot inside, which reflect her performance, her connection with the family, with a connection with her coach, and the society. She doesn't have significant others. She doesn't have too many friends. She just her and the boxing and what she involves with the boxing. Open-ended questions will allow me to dig deeper and will learn more about Maggie and her background and how it reflects to her situation and her performance and career. Some other counseling psychology skills is the listening and reflecting and silence. Maggie often sharing some of the things that that are happening in her life. Her excitement and talkative personality provides a lot of information about the way she thinks, but she's not always aware of it. Listen to what she has to say behind those moments. Reflect them back that she can hear herself, and give some silence to those moments so what she said can be heard better. This process is important to help her to learn more about herself and to have better reflect on our work. Last thing about psychology skills is affirmation. It seems like Maggie looking for support and acknowledgement or even approval, especially from her coach Don. Coach Don doesn't like to give too much feedback to to his athletes. He don't want. He said that clearly that he doesn't work with women, so he's giving her a lot of hard time. And he knows how to trigger athletes, which seems working very well. He knows how to give her their negative attributes that trigger her motivation and boost her motivation. But to find this balance, I might use some affirmations and some affirmation techniques and some positive reflections to what she says and what's happening, so she can settle and be more balanced and focus on her performance. Last thing about this case is the ethic and professionalism. Maggie grows, as we mentioned, goes very close to her training, Frankie Dunn. Her relationship with him grows from an athlete-trainer relationship into father figure. For me, it's a red flag related to her attachment and bond with her coach. She starts to make decisions based on her feeling and loyalty to her father figure and less on what may advance her boxing career, which may not include Frankie Dunn being involved with her training. There was a couple of situations that she was offered to work with a different manager that take her to a different level and give her better boxing tournaments or fights. Maggie refused to all of them and stayed very loyal to Frankie Dunn. Although Frankie Dunn mentioned a lot of time that for him, she can move forward. She asked me and the coach Don, to accompany her to a personal task, such as meeting her family and being present in what she thinks will be a happy moment with her family, to surprise her family with a new house. As a professional, there are boundaries that need to be made. And for me, it's another red flag and consideration how I will approach this situation. Lastly, during our work, Maggie got injured and suffers from broken neck, C1 and I think C2 as well, and full spine cord cut, which put her in full disability. Cannot move any muscle and even breathe by herself. She also, from all this time in the hospital and cannot move too much, she lost her leg. Maggie is asking for me to help her to put the end to her life. I would like to take the last situation of Maggie's request to put an end to her life and to analyze that, to break it down in the principle-based decision making, the 5-step model by Knapp and Van de Kriek in 2012. The first step is to identify the potential ethical dilemma. For this situation, it's quite simple, as Maggie is asking to help her to put an end of her life which is not legal and not acceptable. On the other hand, Maggie lost the purpose of her life and can't find any reason to continue living in it, and she cannot do it by herself. Obviously, if she could and the situation will raise up, we will need to maybe think about how to send her to a better helper, to professional clinical support. But at the moment, she asked me the request because she cannot do it by herself. She even tried to kill her twice, biting in a tongue and bleeding to death during the night. The second step is to develop different possible plans of actions. At that point, as a consultant, I will try to drag her focus away from the situation, which is very hard and very poorly, and try to build new purpose in her life, even with her huge disabilities. There are many examples of this throughout their careers, other people in life, how they took this situation to a different and positive places. The next step, the third step, is to evaluate the potential options, the pros and cons, the advantage and disadvantage. Yes, Maggie lost a lot: her career, her future in boxing, her family, her body, and more. Obviously, this is disadvantage. But Maggie built a new social and caring environment, people that admire her, a lot of friends around the world, and the possibility to have a meaning in others' life. I will try to guide Maggie and see where and what she can do and be in the future. For example, ambassador of resilience and motivation for youth people or for people with challenging background like hers. She did an amazing job, and we need to put it on the table and see how she takes it, although her bad situation. The fourth step is to act on the decision, with the idea that the action taken will help support minimal impairment and moral principles. I will try to guide Maggie and see where and what she can do and be in the future. Again, ambassador for resilience, helping other youth or people with challenges. Anyway, I will not help her to end her life. I will also multiply the observation around her, asking the hospital, so no one else could do it, and also talk with the authorities and send her to a clinical and mental support. The fifth and the last step is to look back and evaluate the decision. Obviously, the steps that I was talking were not Maggie's wish and against her will. That can cause a negative effect which can drag her even lower and build walls for me to access and help her. I will try to think and advise professional. This situation needs to be taken as well in the clinical and mental health earlier on. What else we can do and what are the other options we can have. This situation obviously it's very extreme, very bad, and we need to help her with any support. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you learn more about Maggie, an extreme and amazing athlete, which had bad ending to her story with her sadly injury. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope I did a good job. Good luck, everyone.